Hello, everyone. My name is Selvi. I'm the social media head here at GMAT Club, and I'm here to welcome you to GMAT Club's MBA application walkthrough series, which is a 6-week series covering applications to top 25 MBA programs. We're actually in our second last week. Next week, we'll also have a few more schools ahead, but for now, we'll be featuring admissions experts and admissions teams who are going to be going step by step through every aspect of the online application. Guys, be sure to subscribe to our channel to stay updated and support us in organizing more events. I will be your host, and in today's walkthrough, we are covering UCLA Anderson. Together with me is the lovely Susan Burishaj, who is the founder of CE Admissions. Susan has helped hundreds of people with their MBA applications, and it's always, always, always great to have her here. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Selvi. Thank you for having me, and it's always a pleasure to have these conversations with you.
For sure. Okay, I'll bring up the screen here.
Yeah, so we can dive right in. Awesome. So for those of you who are targeting round 1 to UCLA, well, you have just a couple of more days away until your submission. So this is a good reminder that you need to go on the application portal and start filling this information, and you'll see why. Right now, I have just logged in, and there is a in-progress application for the 2024 incoming class. So I am going to, go to the application. This is the entire process you'll be going through. We're going to go through essentially each page, talk briefly about each one of those. And if you have questions, obviously write those questions in the comments, and Selby will help answer them. So let's do that.
I'll just bring them.
Not answer them. Actually, ask them out loud because I can't necessarily see those questions myself. Awesome. So let's go right in. I'm going to open the application portal, and you are always led to this welcome page by the dean. Just read through it. It's very straightforward. The next page, once you are done with this one, it gives you a little bit of instructions here. You really want to make sure that you read through them. Part of the application process is also evaluating, do you follow instructions? You are going to apply to an MBA program, an academic institution. They're there to teach you. Are you going to follow what it is that they're asking of you? Some schools have different components. Some of them will give you font sizes and font styles. So please make sure that you follow those directions. Here, they're particularly mentioning the time. The round time when you have to submit is at 11:59 on the target deadline for the target round. So 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. Do make sure that you're not waiting until last minute. If you have technical issues, unfortunately, there may not be anyone there to actually respond to your question, and you don't want to submit an application that is late. Here you are again reminded of your deadlines for each of the rounds. So you have the application submission by October 5th, and the decision for that round is released on December 14th. For those of you who are submitting the various different kinds of tests, most of you are, unless you are waiving the test itself, you need these codes in here to share with the admission team your test score. So very straightforward. Just make sure you read. The next segment is, personal information about you. I don't think I'm going to spend much time on this because I think all of you here know how to answer these questions. It's just make sure you have the right information in here, particularly the right email address, because you don't want to receive communication from the school and you're not checking that email account, and you miss out the invitation to interview, and you miss out important information that the school is sharing with you. The one thing here, so you have biographical information, citizenship, of course. You will need a photo identification, so a copy of your government-issued ID, and information relating to your passport or for U.S. residents themselves. The last piece on this page is the gender identity and expression. I get this question often. It's, how should I answer if I do this, or am I going to have an advantage or disadvantage? Please just answer honestly. There is nothing here that is going to, it's not really about your gender identity. That's going to be the determining factor of your admission. It's really your entire application. So just be honest, answer the question if you want to. If you don't want to, obviously you don't have to.
Yeah. Oh, someone did here asked, can a student with a 3-year undergrad apply at UCLA?
I would have to check actually, because we're talking, I believe in India, there's three-year degrees. So long as it's, when it's converted and it's equivalent to a 4-year undergraduate degree, then yes. But if it's not, then you would not be eligible.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we can go to the next section because some of them related to the other stuff.
Perfect. Okay, great. So you have your test scores, your military service, your affiliations, essentially just tick the boxes that make sense for you. So one thing I will say is that the applications are dynamic. So if you answer yes to some of these, like if I say here military, it's fine, either one. But when we go further down, and actually in a few other sections, you will see that the application is dynamic, which means if you answer a question in a particular way, new boxes will show up. For that reason, you never leave the application for last minute because it does take time to put it together. I'm looking over here because, Selby, I see your face on the screen. So for those of us seeing us, wondering why am I looking out the window?
No problem.
Awesome. Okay, and then they want to know, of course, the sources of information. How did you find out about the school? Do share information here because one, it does demonstrate, your interest in the program, but also helps the school to see where they are, putting their resources and how our students, prospective students, finding out about the program itself. Conduct here, you do want to answer this question. This is any kind of misconduct if something like it happens. So if there's a felony or other sorts of crimes, you need to answer this question. So if the answer is yes, as I said, dynamic, the application, you have space to actually provide a little bit more context to that. Just be mindful that this is not 750 words, but actually 750 characters, which is about maybe 100 words or so, depending on maybe even less than that. So just be mindful of that information there. All the schools have an optional essay, and the way they allow students to answer or to provide additional context to their application varies a little bit on the school. Some schools have sections like dedicated to it next to the main essays, and other schools have it elsewhere. For UCLA, you have it right here, provide additional information, and you have 1,000 characters remaining. And just remember, it's 1,000 characters with spacing, not without spacing. all the nuances there.
Did we cover the GMAT score, or we're coming to that? Oh.
I think there was a. Let me just go back. No, yeah. Let's go next. Okay, so here you have an opportunity to provide a little bit more about your background, about your, family is part of your application. So you will see more in that relation here. So here you have, a bit more information asking you about your undergraduate experience, your early life experience. So if you are a foster youth, you would answer the question yes here, if that obviously applies to you. If not, then don't. If you're a first generation college student, you have an opportunity to answer that question here as well. If you are in a domestic partnership or you're married, you would provide the information here. And obviously they want to know a little bit more about the individual that is going to be accompanying you in one way or another, and if they are attending or applying to the school, to UCLA, you would want to include that here. And if not, of course, just leave it blank. If applicants do apply as a partner application, they will look at both candidates. So if you have a partner that is also applying to the program, you just want to make sure that you're sharing that information with them, because they do want, they don't necessarily always want to split partners, spouses, if they can, right? So
but can it be an added bonus, just like having your husband/wife just submit an application for higher chances of getting it? Is there a loophole like that?
I guess one can choose to go that route, but your spouse is not going to submit you typically don't want your spouse to submit a less than application, and you're asking them to dedicate a lot of hours to put together an application to have that little added bonus there.
Well, they're there through thick and thin, right? So
of course they are there through thick and thin, for sure. However, if your partner's application is not strong, then they won't be admitted. So it's not it's not an automatic admission if one of them gets admitted. But if they are if two applicants are applying and they are partners or spouses, and one is admitted, the other one is much more seriously considered, and it may help the other person gain admission, but it's not a guarantee. So that's important to there's no guarantees in the application process.
And one of our users was like, LOL, and they have to take the GMAT, which is, I think.
Exactly. They do have the option of taking the executive assessment, which is a little easier than the GMAT. But yes, you have to, your spouse will need a very, very generous gift. You put them through that.
For sure. Alrighty.
Awesome. Okay, so let's continue. So we talked about that, and then of course your parent information in here, what their background is, their college, their degree, where they worked for both of your parents, and if they're living or deceased, you would include that information. Those are very straightforward. And here you have the option to select. Not the option. You need to select one of the programs that you're applying to. So I'm going to select a full-time MBA. And as you can see, the application just, new windows popped up. So if you're a reapplicant, this is an important component. If you're a reapplicant, you will have to take this box. And when you do, new elements show up. So here, then it's asking you if you want to submit a new score, you would include it. If you want, I'm going to untick it, just new boxes will keep popping up. If you have new employment, you have to include that information. Academics, activities, and so on and so forth. You have essentially these boxes that allow you to add a little bit more color as to what happened or how have you improved your candidacy since you applied. What's important to remember is that you are a reapplicant only if you have applied in the last 2 years, so 2 application cycles. If you've applied earlier than that, then you are a new applicant.
If there's no significant change, is that also doable? Can you still apply?
You can still apply, but my perspective is that, they've already made a decision in the previous year about your candidacy. If it didn't work that time, why would it work now? So you do want to showcase some kind of improvement. And of course, you are applying to a top 20 business school. You are, the kind of person that they want to admit is the high achiever who is always looking to improve. So whether it's a promotion, you can include that in there. a new test score, a new class, you've taken the Harvard Business School's core, for example, to showcase that you are academically ready, you would include that information in there. If you volunteered or on the board of some kind of nonprofit that matters, you would include that information in here, or any other significant changes that have happened. So sometimes it happens that one has had family emergencies or something that impede them to be as engaged. You would the other box and provide a little bit more context to that experience. You really do want to showcase a bit more, a bit of a change since you last applied. Otherwise, it's really difficult to have a different outcome the second time around.
Makes sense. Cool.
Okay, so to which program are you applying? Obviously, you have the primary MBA program, but then you have the dual degree options that they offer. And you would choose one that best applies. We're going to stick with the full-time MBA. And if you're a current UCLA graduate student, you would tick yes. If not, tick no. And if you already have another MBA, so there are sometimes applicants who do apply for a second MBA, especially if your first MBA was a long time ago, or it was from a developing country, or that MBA is not really helping them make the moves that they need to make in their career. It makes sense that one would consider a second MBA. So if you are doing that, you would tick it here. Obviously, you would include the school, but if you are in the process, you're going to have to actually explain why you would need to change schools in order to get an MBA.
Gotcha. Okay.
That would be something you would include in the optional essay.
Understood.
Wonderful. Great. Okay, so here, go ahead.
We do have already questions related to the academics test scores. So this is, I guess, something we should dive in deeper.
Perfect. Okay, great. So here you have the, they're asking, and this is true for every school, so if you've done it once, you know that you have to do it all many, many times. They are interested in your academic performance. Obviously, past is indicative of your future success, especially from an academic stance, and you are applying to business school, or you're applying to an academic institution, which obviously they still care that you perform well and that you're successful academically in school, even if you don't necessarily care so much about your grades. So here you have some information about how you're going to include your various academic, details. So, they're asking you to not convert your grades to a 4.0 scale. This is really important where you can. Try not to convert because conversions are never apples to apples. Sometimes you end up presenting yourself in a less favorable light if you're converting than you may want to, right? So stick to the original grading system and don't convert.
Gotcha.
Great. So here you will have a window that pops up, just making sure that it does. Okay. And you're going to include the academic institutions that you've attended, obviously the name, the country, the city, the state or province, or depending on where you're coming from, the dates that you attended, level of study, you'll choose here which one applies to you. Degree type, you have options to select from this drop-down list. And then the exact degree awarded. So here, obviously, you don't have all the options available from all the schools. So choose one that best matches the degree that you have received. And then in the box here, you can type the actual degree that you were awarded. So if you receive the award, yes or no, the major, here you have the major categories, overall GPA. Again, they tell you do not convert, so like they're serious about this, so please follow the instructions. And then the GPA scale. So if you are coming in with a 5.0 GPA scale, and yours is 4.25, so you would put 4.25 here out of 5. That's what you're doing. And then you are also including a digital transcript or like a PDF or a scan page that you would attach it here. Once you're done with that, just make sure that you save before you exit out of this page. And if you have more than one institution, so if you have an undergraduate and a graduate, you would multiply that by however many institutions you have. It's also important that if you started a program, so if you started at your bachelor's degree at a community college and then you transferred to a private school later on, you would include both of those in here with transcripts for both.
Okay.
Awesome. And then overall GPA, again, they want to hear that. What is the maximum possible undergraduate school scale? You would include that in here. Any degree classifications if it shows. So this is mostly for, I know especially for the British system, these are, most prevalent, and down here are more prevalent for US. So if you have any kind of honors that you received as far as your degree is concerned, you would highlight the one that best matches what shows up in your diploma. Then they're also looking for you to share also a few math classes. They still want to make sure that you'll be successful in your MBA class. So here they ask for the most advanced class that you've taken, the course, which school did you complete it at, the year that you completed, and the grade that you received it.
Oh, interesting. And if you have not had anything math related, then
you don't include anything. Most students are required to have at least a sort of preliminary math in college that they complete, but it's true that sometimes you can waive out of it, and in that situations you can leave it blank. So yes.
That's interesting. Even like for art students, it's a better thing to have a math related course.
Yeah, I mean, if you've done it in college, if there's nothing, it's better, obviously. Sorry. If
no.
It's better if you have taken some math. If you haven't done, then obviously you would include here what you have in high school.
I mean, if you do not have it, you can always compensate with like your GMAT score or something.
Yes. Yeah. Your GMAT score, then it's going to be really important, and you cannot waive your test because in order for anyone to waive a test, they really need to show that they have the quantitative capabilities to succeed in the program. And if you haven't taken classes in math before, since high school, not before, but since high school, then you definitely do not want to waive that that test.
Makes sense. Got it.
Perfect. If you've attended a community college, as I mentioned earlier, you would include it. You would, say yes. In which state? So you would include the state. So let's just say California. And as you can see, depending on what your answers are, new windows are going to pop up. I'm going to say no so that this clears out, but you would just continue down the path. If you've had any failing grades, you would include it in here, and then you explain the failing grade and provide essentially like what happened, why did you fail? As you can see, I'm sure by now, all of you haven't started this process, realizing just how time-consuming this process is. And I encourage everyone to actually not complete the application short answer questions in the app, or you can do it in the app, but actually do have a copy on a Word or Google Doc or something like that, so that if something happens, it didn't save, it's not, you don't lose your information.
Gotcha. Also, I mean, while you're sipping water, guys, do like this video, right? Like, I mean, it always helps the video reach a larger audience, after the sessions end. So whoever's watching right now, it will just take 2 seconds, like the video. And and also, Susan, we do have a question. So someone asked, if we don't have a direct math course in undergrad, but will accounting and statistics related help?
Yes. Yeah, include the best course that you can, that shows your quantitative abilities. So your most advanced one that you've taken. So yes. Yes. And going back to, the YouTube, also share this video with your friends as well. We're going through the process. we are individuals that want to help everyone, right? So it's important that we are thinking about others as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so here is if you had any, disciplinary violation in your academic institution, you would be answering this here. And again, a new window is going to pop up and you answer the question, or you provide more context on what happened. Awesome. Continuing on. All right, here are the test scores. I'm sure there were questions on this part. So this is where you're going to include your test scores. You would add the tests that you've sat for, right? So your EA, your GMAT, GRE, whichever one of those tests you've completed. So you would include the date that you've taken the test, the total score, and just essentially all this information is in the report that you receive. So just include that in here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so test date is required, September. All right, let's save that. And then if you have multiple tests, you're going to include them here. If you have multiple kinds of tests, so if you are an international student and you need to put in to submit TOEFL or IELTS, you would just add a new test after you save the first one.
And you have to take this English test, even if you've taken GMAT. GMAT is not enough.
That's correct.
Even I had this. I was like, GMAT has like a very hard English-related questions. Shouldn't that be enough, to show that I'm good at English?
Yes, but unfortunately, no. I wish that was true. That was the case, and I definitely sympathetic to the international applicants that have to jump through a few additional hoops to get in. But it's unfortunately part of the process that one must go through.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah, sorry. One thing I will say especially for those who are not submitting now but are planning to submit later on, schools are agnostic to which test you take, and if you find that the GMAT, which everyone is typically inclined towards going for, and you find it really, really hard, do consider the GRE. At least that one, it's maybe a little bit easier, especially for non-math, applicants. And UCLA does accept the executive assessment for the full-time MBA. However, you want to be mindful of the full spectrum of schools you are applying to before you choose to take the executive assessment. And the reason is that you don't want to limit yourself to the schools you can apply to just because you took the executive assessment, and some of the schools that you would wish to apply to don't accept it for full-time MBAs.
And someone did ask, can international students also submit EA instead of the GRE GMAT? So is it applicable to them as well?
Yes. Any person that's applying who wants to take the EA can submit an application with the EA score.
They also did ask, is there any clause applicable for EA test takers?
None that I'm aware of. Clause.
Gotcha.
What kind of clause?
Not sure. That's what they asked.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any clauses. You want to look at what are the averages for the applicants that are submitting the EA. So it's definitely easier than the GMAT or the GRE, but again, it's not something that if you want to apply to many schools, then I would go with either the GRE or the GMAT and not the EA, because then you would have to take the EA for some schools and the GMAT or the GRE for other schools, which means you're studying for 2 tests and you could use that time for other things in your application.
And regarding GMAT, someone asked, what's the minimum GMAT score required?
Schools don't have minimums. You want to be close to the averages. The lower your GMAT, the obviously less of a chance of being admitted. It decreases your chance of being admitted. You do have to have a really stellar application with some amazing experiences to lead to admission. And also impact scholarship. So if you are applying for an MBA hoping for a scholarship, you shouldn't really be looking at minimums. You should be looking at what the averages are, and even going above average if your GPA is lower than the class average for UCLA.
Yeah, makes sense.
Awesome. Okay, let's continue on to career. So this is essentially, your career history. They see your resume. One thing I want to just spend a few minutes talking about. Oftentimes applicants go through this application process. As you've seen in here, we've spent 30 minutes right now on this call just talking about the application, not even filling anything out per se. So once you go through this process, you realize just how time consuming it is. And then they decide that, I'm just going to copy paste what I have on my resume and just include it in here. That is truly a missed opportunity for applicants to really share who they are and what they bring to the table, and recognize that it's actually, from the reader's perspective, it is for most people a pet peeve if you are just copying and pasting what you have already in another document. You have to think of your application as every piece of the information that you share with the admission team is an added opportunity for you to share who you are and all the experiences that you have. It'd be nice if you can just put in everything you want to say in a document and share with them. That would be nice, but it's not that way. You just have to think holistically how you're presenting the full picture and provide information that speaks to the character that you are looking to portray to the admission team. So when you get to the employment section, for each of the employers that you have had since college, you are going to include in here. So you are going to, look for the organization name, the country, just fill in that information. You will have to provide a little bit of context of the employer's main activity. So what are they? What do they do? The years of experience, years in existence. So since when was this company founded? So if it's a big name, obviously it's going to be older. If it's a startup, you'll have, whatever the year that they were founded, you would include that in here. Number of employees. So is it a 500, person company or 10,000, whatever the number is, include in here. Sorry, not in there, in here. And then you are going to include, approximate revenue. They are looking to see how large the organization and how marketable you're going to be in the job market after they confer a degree. Then you're going to have employer's website. So I have worked with candidates that are from Asia who don't have a website because they use, WhatsApp or other sorts of ways to connect with their users. If the company doesn't have a website, don't include a website, obviously. I explained that in your optional component as to, why do you not have a website on here? Hours per week, is this a full-time, part-time? Do you work 50 hours or do you work 80 hours a week? And numbers do also help the admission team see, if your resume or your application is lacking extracurriculars, can they actually see that you're working 80 hours a week? It may mean that you don't really have a lot of time to engage in extracurricular activities, right? So this can definitely help you in presenting a full picture, especially if you're lacking in ECs at the moment. If it's a family or if this is your business, you would include that in here. If it's a nonprofit, you will tick the box that matches, and then you would include the starting date and the ending date, starting position and ending position. So this means that if you've had multiple jobs in the same company, meaning you've been promoted, you would only include it once, right? So you would have your starting and the ending, starting salary and ending salary, and including bonuses. I don't know if there's any bonus questions, but I'm sure people will have. If you don't have a bonus, don't include it. Just write it. And then if there is any kind of additional compensation, so if there are stocks in part of your compensation, you would include that in here.
But like knowing all of this information, is there a reason why it's asked? Like, why are you getting these compensations, bonuses, etc., etc.?
Yeah, so they're really looking at where are you going to be, like is your salary too high for an employer that recruits at UCLA to be able to actually offer you a
Even higher
compensation, even higher compensation to justify your MBA, right?
I see.
So if you are making $1 million, probably you won't be making that immediately after you graduate, right? So
UCLA is it's okay, buddy. We're gonna decline your application right here. You don't need an MBA.
Yeah. So that can help in the process. But sometimes applicants, are coming from developing countries where their salaries obviously are very, very different from U.S. applicants. And just know that that's okay. If that's your situation for the audience, that's totally okay. Just include what your salaries and bonuses are. Even if they don't match the U.S. Counterparts. And you're going to include a job description. So if you have a job description in the resume, this one needs to look different. It needs to have more color or different information than what you've included in the resume. Promotions and when did you receive those promotions? So you have an opportunity to lay them out. This is a good place as opposed to doing it on your resume. Obviously, you're submitting a one-page resume, which is going to be limited to how much information you can include in there. So this allows you to provide a little bit more context to your, career to date. And reason for leaving. So if this is your current job as you are applying, you do not need to include, I'm going to, get into an MBA program. That's not really necessary. This is only if this is not your current job and or you have recently left the job and you're not working currently. So you want to incorporate that in there. But you don't need to say, I'm planning to go to business school.
Yeah.
Awesome. Then you have, I'm just being mindful of time here now, so I may speed up, but please feel free to stop me. In
I mean, we have a few questions.
yeah,
Should I bring them?
yeah, for sure.
All right. Someone here asked, do the colleges have any extra edge towards the military personnel for the admission?
Colleges do like business schools do like military applicants because they do bring quite a nuanced like especially like in operations and in getting a mission completed.
Yeah.
They definitely prefer that. However, they typically about 8, 9, 10% of an MBA class that's made up of military
Mm.
from the different branches of the military students. So one thing I will say to military applicants that are applying, just be sure that you are converting your experiences to what would that translate to business world. If you're if you're incorporating jargon, military jargon, it becomes really really difficult to someone who is not in your field, in your space, to understand what that actually means. So pay close attention to how you're presenting yourself.
Gotcha. And we have someone here asks, I don't have a work experience. What are the chances I might get in?
No work experience? That's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's really hard because I'm assuming you are a undergraduate candidate, so you're going to emphasize your internships. You can still apply. So for early career, you can still apply, but you're going to have to really showcase that you're ready for an MBA, which is going to be difficult to do.
But I mean, it's sort of a requirement, especially for US schools, to have work ex, right? Like minimum 2 years.
Yeah.
If not, then do a deferral.
Exactly. So the deferred program is for undergraduate students in their final year of university, or master students in their final year of study, can secure an MBA 2 to 5 years before they actually start. So it's a great way to secure a seat, get some work experience, and then start your MBA. Some people, secure that seat, and in that period of time, they've had a lot of experiences, and they apply to other schools and get a better offer of admission and choose to go to another program. But at least you have a seat that's secured, and you're going to business school. It's helpful, especially if you are, when you're in college or when you're in university, you are used to go through a lot of testing all the time, right? So getting that GMAT or the GRE while you are in that mindset, it's actually very, very helpful. So if you're planning to do an MBA, definitely do those early on. And obviously they're valid for 5 years. So you don't need to take it again if you get the score that you want.
Gotcha. Got another question. A specific admissions question. I have a 3-year undergrad followed with a 4-year work ex as a senior accounting executive. Would you advise me to apply regardless my 1 year less degree?
Yes, I would say if your undergraduate is equivalent to a 4-year degree, then I don't see why you should not apply. You have 4 years of work experience. So as far as like just the data points that you've shared here, I don't see why you shouldn't.
Okay, yeah, we can move on to the next section.
Perfect. Now it's goals, which is what I was going to say, but I'm saving it for this. Goals are an important part of the admission process. Obviously, you are going to come in with your academic performance that you can't change, your work experience that you've had in the past you can't change, but you have shown progression, you've shown success in your career, you have extracurriculars, a lot or little, some or none, that is going to show who you are from the past perspective, right? Business schools look at that to see your potential for success in the future. However, it doesn't stop there. The next step in the admission process is to really look at what future are you imagining building for yourself, right? So where is it that you're going? And is that future feasible to actually take place? So oftentimes, applicants go through this journey and think, oh, I want to have this really ambitious goal, and I want to talk about entrepreneurship, and I want to build this company, but I don't know what company it is now, so I'm going to explore and figure things out. That's not business school. Business school wants specific goals with specific ends in mind. So when you talk about your goals, short and long term, you really want to be as specific as possible. Where I found with my clients that they found most success is when that goal is anchored on a past personal experience, whether that personal experience was experienced while in the work environment or in the extracurricular community service environment. So what do I mean by that? If, for example, you work in the retail industry and you see how the retail is impacting the environment, and you want to do sustainability in the future because you saw that in the business world, that is your motivation. That's your North Star of what's guiding you to do an MBA. And reverse engineer, how can you be of impact to to change how the retail industry does sustainability, right? So you're at what's going to be that long-term ambitious goal that's possible. And what's the short-term goal that is the fastest path to the long-term plan. That's how you build your goals. But sometimes I get candidates who say, oh, well, I'm really interested in something that I heard about, so private equity or venture capital, but I have no finance, no investment banking, no M&A, no prior, any of those kinds of experiences. But, I want to transition.
Yeah.
That is a bad goal for business goal. The chances are like 1%, and no one really bets on 1% chance. So even if you have a beautiful profile, the chances of admission are very low, if non-existent. If you pitch a unrealistic goal. So do take time to go through that here, and you have 650 characters to explain. And then here, after you explain what your long-term and short-term plans are, then they're asking you specifically in the 1,000 characters, how can UCLA Anderson career and or personal goals? So here you're going to truly just answer the question, be as specific as possible, given the fact that you only have 1,000 characters. To specifically what resources that UCLA Anderson offer you to get to the long-term plan. Most applicants, use this time to refresh their LinkedIn profile. If you want to include it, please refresh it. If not before, at least a couple of days after when you include it in here. Your job function, your desired future job function, current and desired. So they're just, looking at the comparisons between the past and the future. Years of professional full-time work experience, and years of management experience with people, projects, or budgets. And they're really looking at both. So if you have 5 years of work experience and only 1 year of management experience, then you would do 5 on top and 1 on the bottom. And then the gross annual compensation, they want the current, right? So current is important. And then if your employer is sponsoring your business degree, or if you have, for the veterans, military personnel on this live, if you are expecting educational benefits from the U.S. military, then obviously you would tick the yes box. And you would indicate which one. Okay, so then you have to upload a PDF or JPEG or TIFF file of your, of your resume. Obviously, make sure that there's no track changes. Make sure that once you worked on it in a Word or Google Docs and you convert it to a PDF, just make sure that the formatting remains the same before you actually upload it. Because once you submit, you can't make any changes.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Okay, activities. So these are, activities and honors and certifications that you have done, with particular activities, and the maximum of 5 that you have done in your community. So you are going to open this box and just keep answering the questions as they show up. These are estimates. Don't feel like you have to go and call the organization you worked at and start counting the weeks and how many hours, and like this estimates are fine. Just keep it real. And then weeks per year. And then you're going to describe your participation. Again, if you've included this information in your resume, make sure that what you include in this box is going to be added information that builds a fuller picture of your engagements. Honors and distinctions, you would break this down and include that information in here. So what was the basis, the distinction, what was the basis, and when it was awarded, and you keep adding as many as you have. Professional certification. So if you have a CPA or CFA, you're going to answer those here. And if there's other like project management or any kinds of other certifications, you would include those in here. And then you have your list of hobbies or personal interests that you engage with most. Typically, people have this information at the bottom of their resume. If you have that already in there, maybe you need the extra space and include it, give a little bit more color in this segment of the application, so it gives you more space in the resume to develop the rest of the accomplishments you've had. Okay, so UCLA does also want to know how you're going to engage in their community. What have you done your research and know that you would really want to participate in? And you're going to tick as many boxes as they apply to you. But just be realistic. If you're interested in something that you're just ticking boxes on everything, it's not a...
you're not going to get a bonus.
Getting any bonuses, and it just shows that you are totally undecided. Be discerning as to what really matters to you, and tick the boxes that apply to the thing that matters to you. As you can see, there's a lot of activities. So
for sure,
you're gonna have about 2 to 3, maybe 4.
I don't even think I understand half. Sorry, no. I saw some of the clubs here. I'm like, oh, what is this?
Yes, definitely. One of the things that I love to say is that you don't know what you have not been exposed to. And when you go to business school, there's just so many amazing experiences and amazing options to be involved in, and just explore, but then decide what is it that you really want. Where do you want to put your efforts so that you can make the most out of that experience? Okay, so this is where most of the people spend most of their time, which is the essays. So you have essentially only this much information. So you have one essay, 250 words, where UCLA wants you to share an example from your personal or professional life where you demonstrated perseverance to accomplish a significant goal or milestone. They do want you to also incorporate your goals in here. So when we talk about the mission and the North Star, what are you looking to do? If your significant goal or significant thing that you've accomplished, or you've demonstrated perseverance in relation to your North Star, that would be ideal in how you answer this 250-word response. Yes. And here is where there is extenuating circumstances in your profile that to explain. You have 250 words maximum. Then
optional means optional, right? Like I know in European business schools, when it's optional, they actually recommend that you write something, but not in this case, right?
Even some US schools, so like Stanford has optional short answer responses. I don't consider those optional because they're asking specific questions. Here, if there's extenuating circumstances that apply to you, then answer it. But if there's no extenuating circumstance, why would you make up something to write a response? So that's truly the only optional piece of an essay, of an application that I personally consider to be truly optional. All the others that ask you specific questions, I consider those as you should really answer them.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so your recommenders, this is a question that I often hear. Who are the recommenders? Who do I choose? What should they say? Choose recommenders that can give specific examples to your experience, to your contributions to a given project, a given team. So these should be someone that's above you in rank in the organization. It should be someone that has directly seen your work, that they can use a specific example in their letters of recommendation. So here you're going to fill in their information. Sometimes organizations don't allow for a recommendation. So I had some clients, so like Amazon, for example, doesn't. So it's okay for them to include their own Gmail account. However, you do know that they're going to be subject to additional review, which is totally okay because they will be able to be confirmed that they are whoever your whoever your recommender is working for.
Yeah.
Here is going to be a personal message. You should write something. Thank you so much for taking the time to write this letter of recommendation, something that's nice. And then here, this is the right to waive seeing the report. You have the right to not waive the seeing the essentially the letter of recommendation, but I do suggest that you waive the right to access this report, because from the eyes of a committee reading your application, they will say, if you don't waive the right, they will think that you haven't, the recommender hasn't been honest in their letter recommendation, because they know you will read this letter. So if you trust your recommender, if you trust the person that you've asked, which you should, if you don't trust them, probably should not ask them to write the letter recommendation. Just waive the right.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Okay. And then after this, you're going to sign, and then there is a review page. So you should never just, obviously it has blanks everywhere because I haven't completed anything. You should really review. There is a application proof, and I do encourage you to actually do a proof which generates a PDF and go through the entire application. Like line by line, block an hour, 2 hours on your calendar to just review this before you hit submit. Complete all the materials, and then set it aside for a day, ideally, if not, but at least a day, and then read it again to make sure that you haven't missed anything. Just compare what you have on your resume, the dates, and what you've included in here, just to make sure that there's no accidental errors made before you submit. Like I said, once you submit, you can still reach out to the admission team and make changes based on like what errors you've made. But the more errors you make, the more sloppy it comes across from the admission perspective. So you should look at it. This is final. I can't change it once I submit. So just take the time to go through it in detail. Awesome. All right, we are at time. I don't know if there's any questions or what your schedules look like, but
yeah, I mean, I can pick some of them up that we haven't answered yet. And so there was remember the question where a person asked, I don't have any work X, can I still apply? So they did also add in that they have recently completed their BDS in dentistry. So I guess it's the same thing.
They completed their what?
BDS, like a dentistry bachelor's, I think.
Gotcha. Okay. So if they just recently completed it, you're most likely should just wait and get some work experience before you apply. It's going to be really hard. Like if you completed it, yeah, it's going to be difficult for you to get admitted without any work experience.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, there's one more. I don't know if my 3-year college is equal to 4-year US degree. Is it okay if I do a 1-year diploma course to cover up the 1 year?
Typically, yes, but you should, before you start doing a diploma course, I would reach out to WES, which is an education services organization. They are responsible for converting international degrees. Reach out to them and have them give you an estimate of how much it would cost to evaluate your your degree and see if it's equivalent. But spending a year on something, if it takes a week to convert and see if it's done, it makes sense to do it that way first.
For sure. And here's a question: does UCLA value part-time and full-time masters the same weight?
Yes, it's the same value. It's the question should really be more: do employers value the full-time or part-time MBA? Employers will see the UCLA Anderson degree as getting a degree, getting an MBA. The area where you are going to think about, as far as like your future employer is concerned, is how possible is for you, if you're looking to make a transition in particular, how possible is going to be for you to do that when you are working full-time, doing an MBA part-time, not having the chance to do an internship, and you're going to be much more constrained with time.
Okay, makes sense. I think we covered all the questions and everything about the application, and we're on time, so.
Yes, perfect. Well, thank you all for watching. If you want to know more and talk with me about your candidacy and ways that I can support you, feel free to reach out at cadmissions.com, and we can talk more.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Susan, a ton.
Thank you. We'll talk soon. Bye.